I'm Bill Fitzgerald in the CBS 6 newsroom. We're not going to do an update the way we usually do. Instead, since today is a special day, it was the royal wedding day, right? Probably you got up real early this morning to watch it. I'm not a big royal watcher. I did not watch any of it, slept right through it. I'm sure it was great. I'm sure William and Kate are happily married and off to their honeymoon somewhere in the north of England where it's probably bitterly cold and probably drizzling, but they're going to have a great time in some old musty castle that's drafty, has no heating, has logs and things, but it'll be very romantic. Anyway, but it got me thinking, about 25 years ago, I had a few royal encounters. I taught for a year on a fellowship at an old prep school in England outside of London. It's actually the school where William and Harry did their prep school work, Eton, and you'd walk around in striped trousers and capes and big gowns, and the boys walked around in waistcoats, and they called everybody sir, and they used to tip their fingers up at you because they don't wear top hats anymore, so they just lift their fingers up. That's a way of showing respect to the masters. Hello, sir, they'd say, and it took me a while to figure out what exactly they were doing. Wasn't sure if they were using the pinky instead of some other more common digit, but in fact, I was told very quickly that, yes, they're just do it right back to them. Yes, sir, carry on. So anyway, one day I was coaching the JV rowing team. I was riding my bike along the towpath there, along the river, and trying to keep up with my crew. I was pedaling fast and furious. I came around a bend, and there's a woman with some kind of rain hat on, tucked up under here, walking a couple of dogs. So I rode off into the edge of the path there, kind of into the bramble and brush, got out of the way, and then kept going. And shortly thereafter, the main rowing coach came up behind me, pedaling fast and furiously, sputtering away, just, hey, Bill, did you not see that woman there? And I just stopped and I said, yeah, I saw a woman. Why? Don't you know who that was? And I said, no. He goes, that was the Queen. What did you do? And I said, what do you mean, what did I do? I'm not a subject. I'm not supposed to bow and scrape before her. But apparently that was a big deal. So that was my encounter with Queen Elizabeth. She is the mother of the guy who just got married this morning. I had another encounter because of this wonderful school, and one of the teachers that used to come and take meals in the little house that I lived in. He was very much involved with the royals, and he followed all the various people who followed them, part of their court or their retinue, I suppose. He was real well connected there. And he said, Bill, would you like to join me with the Queen Mom for dinner? And I thought, the Queen Mom, that's Elizabeth's mom. That's the real old lady who I think used to be queen a long time ago, maybe in the last century. So I said, sure. So we went to Windsor Castle and had dinner. This older teacher and I, Nigel, and 6 others, a real formal table, 8 people, including the Queen Mom at one end. I was seated next to her, a couple of lords and ladies. Princess Margaret was there. It sounds so crazy to be saying all this 25 years later, but some pretty big royals, I guess. So in total, about 8 of us. The Queen Mom had her own little champagne cooler, one of those ice bowls with the champagne in it. The rest of us had regular wine. It was wonderful wine, I'm sure. I don't really remember. And I sat there with my teeth in my mouth probably for about 2 hours, the designated American, I think, for their amusement, maybe my accent. I don't remember anything at all about the conversation. I do remember Princess Margaret and the Queen Mom and a couple of the lords and ladies, whoever else were there, but it was quite a night. And then finally, my biggest royal encounter was because I was teaching English at this school. The headmaster said, hey, Bill, you're an American. This would be a great experience for you. Why don't you come after dinner tonight? We're going to come to my study. About 5 teachers and I, said the headmaster, are going to sit with Prince Charles and read the Shakespeare plays, Henry IV, Part 2, and Henry V. Henry IV, Part 2 is where the young prince, Prince Hal, comes of age. He's been sort of a rogue, a rapscallion, a heavy drinker, hanging out with Falstaff, and he doesn't want anything to do with his father, Henry IV. He just wants to go out drinking every night. So at the end of that play is when young Prince Hal comes of age and stands and fights with his father, and then of course Henry V. It's a rather famous play of itself, made most recently by Kenneth Branagh into a movie about 15 years ago. That was quite well received. At any rate, it's an appropriate vehicle for Prince Charles, who at the time was probably in his late 30s, early 40s, who was thought to be king soon at some day. So he's going to read a play about the coming of age of a young prince. So I and about 5 other teachers sat in a study and read these plays with Prince Charles while his wife, Princess Diana, sat and listened. And the headmaster had told me ahead of time, he said, "You're about the same age as Princess Diana. Chat her up." And I wasn't so well versed in English vernacular that I knew what chat her up meant. I thought it meant flirt. Well, at halftime, we had a little intermission in the play. I dutifully went up to Princess Diana and I said, "Hi, I'm Bill Fitzgerald from America. Where'd you go to university?" I couldn't think of anything else intelligent to say. And so she said, "Oh, I got out of that at age 14. And I had no other questions to offer. I sat there, probably jaw agape. She was about 5'11". I was very tall. But couldn't think of anything else to say. So I just sort of stood there, shuffled my feet, said, "Okay, great." And then mercifully somebody came to my rescue in the conversation department. But it was quite an evening. A very intimate evening with Charles and Diana, and this would have been about 1986. So you can sort of figure back in the time of things what the status of their relationship was. I don't really recall, but it was a special night nonetheless. Charles was wonderful, a great actor, a great reader, very interested and interesting. Chatted with him a bit. So yeah, those are my 3 royal encounters on this day of a royal wedding, which I haven't really followed. But who knows? Maybe William will be king before his dad will. But those are my recollections, and jolly old England, hooray!
So please let this thing be recorded.